Not only did Donald Trump do better among 18-year-olds, not only did Donald Trump win white males, Donald Trump won all males, won non-white males. So that means Donald Trump won among 18-year-old Black and Hispanic men, something that's never, ever happened before. And this should be a huge, red signal for the Democratic Party.
Welcome to the Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with commentary editor Conn Carroll. Conn, this battle between Donald Trump and the courts is getting more and more intense every day. The Supreme Court is going to have to step in here at some point, right?
Yes.
And they're going to have to do so on two tracks, right? On the merits of the cases that Trump is bringing, and also they're going to have to address these judicial tools that judges are using and, from a conservative perspective, abusing to stop Trump. Let's start with that first track. What are some of the things that judges are saying presidents don't have the power to do?
Well, there's all kinds of things judges are saying they don't have the power to do. And this goes back to previous administrations. It's not just Trump. In Trump's first term, there were over 50 times that courts step in and say, you can't do this. Now, if you look at Biden's term, there were also 15 times that courts entered temporary restraining orders, not temporary restraining orders, preliminary injunctions against the Biden administration against something they were trying to do. And they've already done that 15 times just in February alone against Trump. But when you look back at what a lot of the things Biden tried to do, I think conservatives would want at least some courts to have that power. For example, Biden tried to get the OSHA, the agency in charge of labor, to basically issue a nationwide mandatory vaccine for anyone who was an employee. So this means you and I, if this had gone through, would have been forced to get a vaccine. Now, luckily, the litigants went to a court and got a preliminary injunction to stop that order. So I think we still want courts to have the power to enter these preliminary injunctions. But as has shown in the first month of the Trump administration, the power is also being abused by judges who are coming in and using it for small things like $20 billion for one contractor with USAID. So the Supreme Court is going to have to come along and devise some type of new rules so that some judges still have this power, but it's not abused by judges everywhere.
Conservatives this week, some of them, the MAGA types, were pretty fired up that Chief Justice John Roberts came out and sort of implicitly rebuked Donald Trump for calling for the impeachment of one judge who's been particularly egregious in his rulings. Do you think that the Supreme Court is sort of eager to cap the power of lower court justices? Like, is this 3D chess? John Roberts knows he's going to rule in favor of Donald Trump, so, he's putting neutrality out there. I mean, what do you think's happening?
The statements Justice Roberts makes are things he has said in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, factually, he's wrong. Congress and the Senate actually can impeach a judge for any reason whatsoever. That is, in the words of Stephen Miller, non-justiciable. But setting that aside, the Supreme Court is definitely going to have to rule on this eventually. Gorsuch, Thomas, and Kavanaugh have all said in previous rulings before Trump came to power, so this is even when Biden was president, that district judges have way too much power, way too much leniency in how they use the preliminary injunctions, and the Supreme Court is going to have to step in and rein them in somehow. So that's three justices right there that are eager to rule on it. And particularly in the birthright citizenship case, that is one in particular where the Trump administration has specifically asked for relief along the lines of let's leave the birthright citizenship issue aside for a moment, and let's ask specifically, they asked on two grounds. One, should these injunctions be limited just to the parties involved? And two, if that's too narrow for the Supreme Court, could it at least be just the states that are named? So for example, with the vaccine mandate one, right? So that was one that was joined by a number of conservative states that didn't want that vaccine mandate applied to their citizens. So what the Trump administration is asking is, look, can the power, the scope of these nationwide preliminary injunctions be limited to just the states that are litigating? So in that case, it would be like if Texas and Florida want to go to court and go to a federal court and say, hey, stop this vaccine mandate, then that preliminary injunction would only apply to those states. Whereas those states that were not part of the litigation, like California and the rest of it, the vaccine mandate would apply. So that's one compromise the Trump administration is putting forward. And I do think the court will take the bait on that.
You wrote in a column, switching gears a little bit here, that Democrats still have a pretty big problem acknowledging that they have a problem with men and then figuring out how to fix it. But they've sent Tim Walz out here, right, to take it on. How's he doing?
Well, actually, I didn't touch on Tim Walz in this one, but David Shore, who is an avowed socialist, this was a guy who's been working for Democratic polling firms for a long time, but he was fired from a Democratic polling firm in 2020.
I remember
when
this.
During the Black Lives Matter, he said, "Hey guys, I've looked at the data. Supporting riots, really isn't good for the underlying causes here." And for this sin, he was fired. He has since, because he's talented, been created his own firm, and they have their own data that has looked at the 2024 elections. And what he found was, for him, very disturbing, which was not only did Donald Trump do better among 18-year-olds, not only did Donald Trump win white males, Donald Trump won all males, won non-white males. So that means Donald Trump won among 18-year-old Black and Hispanic men, something that's never, ever happened before. And this should be a huge, red signal for the Democratic Party. What are you doing so wrong that you are sending all males of all races outside the party? And so what I just drew a line to was just this last week with the government shutdown. You had Nancy Pelosi issuing a statement saying, "Hey, you need to listen to the women." And I just don't think the Democratic Party really hears itself. When it already has such a huge problem with men, why are you putting out statements basically telling men to shut up and listen to women? Do you think that is an appealing message to men? I just have my doubts.
Well, Conn, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more from Conn and the rest of the commentary team at washingtonexaminer.com.